And tonight we're running the 5th in our seminar series, where we are showcasing people who are doing innovative pedagogies about the teaching of sustainability. So we're going to begin with a karakia. So please feel welcome to join in. It says kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa, o nāmu te moana. He huarahi tātou ati rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou katoa, rie taikie. And this is what we're going to do tonight. We've got our welcome, we're going to introduce our project, and then we're going to introduce our wonderful speaker, Julia Bentz, and Julia will speak, and then we'll have some question time. And then I'll showcase the future seminars with and then we'll have a closing seminar, karakia. So first of all, I would like to talk about our host. Now, our host is our transdisciplinary research hub called Ngā Ara Whetū, and it's the Centre for Climate, Biodiversity and Society. And as you can see, what they are wanting to do is respond to the challenge of creating a sustainable future and build collaborations between the university academics and our community, with the aim of having a flourishing society and planetary well-being. And our particular project is, as I said, looking at how can we teach in sustainability in innovative and transdisciplinary ways so that we can work towards a sustainable world. And we're also looking for enabling collaboration across our faculties to break down the traditional silos in universities and also with our community. Now, as I mentioned, this is our 5th seminar, and tonight we're welcoming Julia Bentz. And Julia is a regeneration and transformation researcher at the University of Lisbon and also at the Free University in Berlin. And she's got a background in interdisciplinary social sciences, and Julia carries out research on the many interactions between social and ecological systems in a variety of research fields. And we're particularly interested in Julia's presentation tonight because she's talking about embodied art, storytelling, and regenerative futures, which is very different from the traditional knowledge-based approach to teaching about sustainability. So thank you very much, Julia, and I will stop sharing my screen now so that you can begin sharing yours.
Okay. Thank you, Sally, for the introduction. And thanks so much for inviting me, Nikki, Daniel, and I'm very pleased to meet you all. I'm zooming in from Berlin today, so quite the opposite side of the planet. And yeah, as Sally said, I will be speaking about embodied art, storytelling, and regenerative futures. So I titled my presentation, What If? How can I move forward? Let me just arrange this differently. Okay, so I gave this title, What If, to my presentation, first of all, because I really like the question. I really like the idea that it invites me to rethink and to question my own assumptions, as well as dominant narratives and common approaches of teaching, of doing things, of working in sustainability. It opens the horizon to see more, to think fresh, and to be creative and invite new imaginaries. And it has been a guiding question for me in my research, and I will share a few examples about what I see as the potential in inviting new imaginaries and approaching sustainability issues creatively using art and storytelling. So I will speak about the power of imagination in contributing to regenerative futures, arguing that we need to strengthen this muscle of imagination because we haven't been using it much or enough. And as it is with all muscles, when you don't use them, they become weak. So that's my idea. And then I will address the idea how we become authors of regenerative futures, engaging different kinds of knowledge and in telling different stories about the present and the future we wish to create. And then I will present some tools and how we can and how that can be done, and that I will do an interactive exercise with you. So let's dive in to the power of imagination. So several people have been writing about imagination. John Dewey, for example, said that imagination is the ability to look at things as if they could be otherwise. And I think that idea is very powerful, looking at things as if they could be otherwise. And as you probably all know, imagination is not a straightforward process. So it can be messy, it can be unpredictable, quite uncontrollable, and it's often considered an unprofitable use of time or the domain of children. Yet it is also the capacity for innovation and creativity, which can be highly prized and richly awarded, at least for a few when you think of musicians, famous artists, and so forth. But also in innovation, such as, so this is comes from August Kekulé, was a German scientist who discovered the structure of benzene, which is a chemical compound of gasoline, and he dreamed of a snake forming a ring by catching its own tail, and that helped him to discover that benzene has this shape of a ring. And also there has been done a lot of research with athletes. It has been proven that, for example, when they imagine a specific jump before doing it, they perform much better than if they don't. Or that people who imagine doing exercise on a specific finger create almost the same amount of muscle than the ones that are actually performing that exercise. So that are actually exercising. So people that are actually exercising a specific finger create about 30% of muscle increase after 5 days, whereas people imagining doing that, about 22%. And that is quite significant, I think. The same has been done with musicians. There was a study by Alvaro Pascual Leone from Harvard Medical School who taught two beginners in piano a sequence on piano, and one group practiced it for 2 hours a day for 5 days, where they actually were playing, and the other group just sat at the piano, and the result was they almost had the same skills after 5 days, while the group that imagined had not yet quite the same, but almost, but they caught up very quickly after they actually played. So this is has been shown that imagination does things to our brain, it does things to our bodies. And that, of course, is relevant when we think about change, when we think about sustainability. So people have been writing about it, that imagination can be a resource for change when we think about sustainability issues, and it can be also an impulse and for inviting us to change, and or the ability of imagination to facilitate an escape from reality by mentally generating alternatives, whether those are fictional worlds, utopian or dystopian futures, is key for so many societal processes, especially for social movements. Michelle Lee Moore and Manana Milkwright. This is, of course, very relevant for sustainability. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Lucille Clifton. We cannot create what we can't imagine. So imagining and telling new stories is sort of the first step of making these realities possible. And imagination can be seen as, therefore, as a radical engagement with the future. This quote saying, engaging with the future, imagining that we are willing to author it together, as opposed to having it given to us, is important. And radical is to say that we should be ambitious and slightly crazy and idiosyncratic about how we think about the future could be. So this idea of authoring and being ambitious and even slightly crazy is something that I also want to talk about. So authoring regenerative futures, becoming authors of the future, not thinking that it's given to us, it's somehow falling from the sky without us being able to impact on it. So this is closely related, of course, to this idea of being a change maker, being active, being engaged in sustainability's futures. And stories have a role to play because storytelling exists probably since humans have lived together and interacted with their environment. Stories helped to make knowledge understandable, to make knowledge transferable and convincing. It's an ancient practice, and yet it never gets old. This picture was taken last week, but if you would take away the modern buildings and some other things, it could be in almost any moment of time, because sitting at a fireplace sharing stories is something that is very has been part of our humanity for many years. So stories play an important role in transformation of realities today, because they can challenge our thinking and give us new perspectives. Stories can be like windows into other worlds. They can reveal hidden perspectives and illustrate challenges that other people face. And telling new stories about sustainable and just ways of living enables us, therefore, to create these new realities. And also, so telling new stories. What are new stories that we should tell to realize more regenerative living? I think one has to do with overcoming several notions of separation, because our mindset of the modernity is based on notions of separation from nature, from our bodies, and from all that surrounds us. Modern science is built on the idea that we should isolate phenomena in order to study them. And this idea of isolating phenomena and separating things is still prevailing, even if quantum physics has already proven that our mere presence influence experiences and experiments, and that there is no real separation between things. Nevertheless, as I said, it continues, and it also influences how we communicate about scientific issues, how we communicate about sustainability. And commonly, it is based on the idea that our cognitive processes are separate from our bodies, and even further disconnected from the material and natural world. Based on this idea that we need to provide more knowledge in order to incentivize change, this idea of information deficit model or empty bucket theory. So this understanding of interdependence, of connection and relationality hasn't been really integrated in many approaches to communicating about sustainability. So following that, I think it's important to blur boundaries, to integrate the cognitive, emotional, embodied knowledges, and to generate a plurality of solutions for equitable and enduring change. And one of the dualities that I see, and I want to break in my research and my practice, is this body-mind duality. And embodiment is this idea of interconnection of body, mind, heart, and imagination. It is seen as a generative state of meaning, of relationships, and understanding. So it's not just about the body, but about living from an integrative place of body, heart, and mind, as a quote by Celeste Snober. And when it comes to learning, it has been shown that the active body learns in ways that are eminently more personal, more applicable, critical, long-lasting than any other teaching method. Quote by Elislam Pinot. And that strengthens the idea that we need to put attention to the involvement of our bodies in the learning environments, to create spaces for active experimentation, spaces for movement, and for involving our senses. So the senses can be a gateway to embodied knowledge. This is a very easy way to connect to our bodies because, as it says, the life flows through you, through our pores, through our bodies. And here's an example of a summer school I organized last year in Lisbon. It was called Urban Imaginaries, Exploring Our Urban Futures. And in the program, we integrated a lot of moments for engaging through the senses, engaging body and mind, connecting to nature in the city and learning across disciplines. So we started every day with embodiment exercises in the park. There were guided tours through the city, focusing and following one sense, and we integrated this idea of exploring nature in the city, cross-disciplinary, and that had a huge impact on the involvement of students. So they themselves, also, with our support in the end, worked on a publication. So they had the task to redesign for the future a specific area in Lisbon. And we made a book out of that with them. You can find that online, it's open access. But for many months after the summer school, people were still engaged and working on this book. So another project I led was also in Lisbon, called The Climate Odyssey. It was engaging the local community and exploring also urban futures, transformation and regeneration in their neighborhood. We had weekly workshops with them where we did a lot of movement. We worked with dance, with storytelling, with photo voice, which is a technique where people take photographs, answering questions. We had drawing, visioning, creative writing, and at the end, we created a performance for the public based on local people. So this links to this idea of regeneration by Paul Hawken. that regeneration means putting life at the center of every action and decision, which applies for grasslands, farms, forests, fish, wetlands, but it also applies to families, communities, cities, schools, and so forth. So regeneration is not only about bringing the world back to life, it's about bringing each of us back to life. And I think that is so important in everything that we do about sustainability, right? That creating spaces where we can come alive, where we can feel alive and vibe, thriving, like Sally said in the beginning, thriving people. So this is very powerful, I think. And Rob Hopkins says that we need to become better storytellers. So this idea that we need to create stories where the kind of future we want to see becomes commonplace every day. We need to tell stories with an underlying sense that the mere telling of them can create a degree of inevitability about their becoming reality, a sense that speaking about them out loud is also a great benefit to our own mind, a powerful antidote to despondency and trauma. So this idea of imagining different futures, of telling different stories about how everything is connected, how our bodies and minds are connected, how we are all connected, is not only just wishful thinking, it's also an important counterbalance of the many hard truth and hard news that we are bombarded with every day. So yeah, and you have heard about this project, the Carbon Ruins. I think it's a very inspiring project because it helps us to make this future past after the fossil fuel era, to imagine this and to make it more tangible, more to make it more a reality. And that is also a way of telling different stories, not just informing about the risks of we are facing. Here's another example. London National Park City. It was a campaign that was started to make London the first national park cities in order to make cities better for people, better for wildlife, and to create cities where people are better connected with each other and with nature. So this was launched in 2019 by the National City Park Foundation and with the support of the Mayor of London, as well as 260 partner organizations. And of course, one can look at this critically and say, well, that is not really a national park in the classical sense. No, it's not. Nevertheless, it's a vision that mobilizes many people and activities, and that shows it might be a way forward, right? To imagine cities differently and to work towards this imagination, this vision. So, storytelling tools. Of course, there are many ways to tell good stories and to engage listeners. I'm not going to say I have found the recipe, not at all, and it's not even mine. But I will propose this approach because I find it useful. And you can try out for yourself and see if you find it useful as well. So we will do this in an interactive exercise. You will need something to write on, a piece of paper, notebook, notepad, or whatever you wish. And if you want to grab that now, you can do that, and then we continue. Okay. So I would like to invite you to a time travel. So travel with me to the year 2050, to a future where we've done everything we could do. It's not utopia, but through good collaboration, we managed to overcome the most important challenges. So I would like to ask you to take this little journey to the future and take a look around in that future. I'm going to turn on a time machine right now, and you can close your eyes if you wish and explore this idea of that we have done everything we could, and walk around in that future and explore how that would be, how it looks like, how do you see, what do you feel, and what do you hear. So here's my little time machine. So, and when you walked around in this future and you're ready to come back, you can come back and take a few notes of what you saw, what you felt, how you felt, what you heard. And we come back here slowly. And then, take a few notes. We will use them in a bit. And now I would like to show you how we can structure stories. So I propose 8 points to structure a story. I will walk you through them and would like to invite you to, in each point, in each topic, to write 1 or 2 sentences. So as we go, okay? So first point of your story is, what's the story about? So choose a topic that is important to you and relevant for regenerative futures, and just write 1 or 2 sentences. What's your story about? And you can do that now. Next, second point is a personal experience or a memory. Since when is this topic important to you? So you can share in 1 or 2 sentences a personal experience or a memory that is connected to the topic. For example, a moment where you realize that it's important to you, or an activity that you value, that you practice. Okay. So now comes your vision in. What did you see in your time travel? You can now connect it to your vision with one or two sentences. What if? So weave in your vision, your fear, what you saw with one or two sentences. Now, body sensations. So, what did you see, or what do you see? What are body sensations that you can add to your stories? Describe the sensations that accompany your vision or idea. Smells, sounds, anything like that. Then, emotional response. How do you feel when you think about your vision? Mhm. And you know this value statement. Um, so add a value statement. What is important to you? What does your vision stand for? What values do you stand for and why? So add your values related to the topic and the vision. Okay, and seventh, what other ways of knowing exist about this topic? Add a few thoughts and insights. And to finish, what are you hoping for? What gives you hope? What inspires you in your life? End your story with a hopeful statement. So here are again all points. I'll give you a moment to finish up. then it would be lovely to hear one or two stories. So, does anyone feel like sharing a story?
This so reminds me of lecturing when you want the students to interact and share and they never want to.
You can break the ice, Sally.
Yeah, I'm thinking I probably need to take that lead. So I suppose for me, I would like to see people being part of their environment rather than seeing themselves above and just acting without any respect for other living things. And it's not so much just the things we like, the mammals and stuff like that. It's the trees and the plants and the insects and the things like that we don't perhaps respect as much. So the next thing was, so memory for me was I chose to buy a house in a suburb where it's next to and also in a bush, and it was a lot of pest plants and things in there. And so I bought it with the idea that I could start restoring it so I could live next to a piece of real New Zealand bush with native trees and attract the birds and the insects and all that sort of thing back again. So I would share it with my family and also with the animals and the plants and all that sort of thing. And I suppose my vision would be I'd like to see cities that are more like that. And New Zealand bush has a particular smell. It's really lovely. That's what makes me think of that. And it makes you feel peaceful and happy and have sort of develop more kindness for others, because I think we forget to be kind to other people and also to the other living things we live with. And something that inspires me is Indigenous knowledge, like Mātauranga Māori, where they feel a spiritual connection to the land, and not just the trees and the animals, but also the land itself, the rivers and the mountains. And in terms, the final point, I thought that it would be really great if we could have environmental justice for everybody and everything. And I'm very thankful to the people, and there's so many people who work as a volunteer basis to restore our natural environment, as well as organisations. So there's my story.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Somebody else?
I don't mind sharing my story. Kia ora, Julia. My name's Alice Lumley. I'm in the dance studies program. So my title or theme was thinking economy differently, listening to the land, thinking travel differently. And I've always found nature a sanctuary. I used to live by the sea, by the rhythm of the water, and I loved the sense of timing with the tide. When I imagined 2050, I saw the water and a city that oriented differently to it. I saw clean lakes and clean rivers and seas and river life and much less cars. And the bodily sensations were floating in a river or the sea. You can be weightless and part of the water cycle, buoyed. You can be part of the water cycle, buoyed and alive and connected. And floating can be bliss. It can feel like freedom, to feel supported by the earth. So I stand for protecting our waterways or our soil, our natural spaces, the right for all to float in natural wild waters. I think we should place protection of water and nature at the centre of political and institutional life. And I hope, to finish, that the communities I'm part of can find ways to continue to enable affinity and care amongst us so that we can support each other to sustain our waters and our worlds. So that was my story.
Thank you so much, Alice.
I think we need to, join up, Alice. You can have the waterways and I'll have the bush.
Deal.
Somebody else would like to share a story?
I would like to share. I was more thinking about, since I'm a teacher and then I'm a literature student, and when I started my school and my college, imagination was the key. And then I found that students' interest for imagination was getting low and is getting low and everything. So I was thinking about a classroom where students will bring graffiti, street art, and then they will talk about how that graffiti and street art is connected to their life. And the classroom will be all messy. People will be talking about talking to each other. There'll be a lot of fun. There'll be a lot of laughter, and the students will be happy. And they will not be thinking about, oh, I need to pass this course. I just need to just get the grade. Rather, how I will use the classroom knowledge in my life, how I can make sustainability in terms of giving my working in a how I can become more prepared to help others, and how I can just do something with others, and how I know that happiness is important. It's not about always money, not about always great happiness. So that's what I was thinking, that, like bringing really interesting content in the classroom, and just what should I say? Just like bringing in imagination, and just know that imagination can do everything if you want to just go anywhere or do things further. Imagination is the key, the starting point. Yes, I was thinking about a classroom in 2050. Yeah, there'll be no AI, there'll be only imagination.
Thank you, Farah. That was very nice to hear your stories. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, and I'm already at the end. So thank you so much for engaging, for being here, for listening. If you want to read more, there's this, I wrote this tiny book about storytelling in art. You can access it, it's freely available. And yeah, I think there's still time for questions, but you're also free to contact me afterwards if you have any questions or would like to know more or anything. So yeah, thank you all. And I will stop sharing now.